Smithsonians, welcome back. We're here with the Dr. White. I already call him Dr. White, okay? So you're not trying to get in trouble.
Gonna say, you're not a doctor, you're not a doctor. I know I'm not a doctor.
Yeah, so we're back, and we're going live to the comment section for this one. And here we go.
All right. Well, first of all, thank you for allowing me to come back to share some perspectives and viewpoints. And what I really like about today is that we have had people to send in comments and ask questions. And so I would like to maybe address some of those questions. And one that came up that I really want to address first, and that is someone said, well, who were the people who initially kidnapped Black people and then sold Black people to white folks or to other people who were out there in the slave trade business? And I often hear, and I'm not going to slam any white person for this, but I often hear white people saying, well, why would you blame us? Because Black people in Africa kidnapped Black people in Africa and sold those Black people to the folks who were dealing with slavery. And my take is this: if kidnapping is wrong and then selling Black people or selling African people to the slave ships, the slave owners and what have you is wrong, then why is it okay for people who bought slaves to enslave people if it was wrong? It doesn't matter what the origin was. The bottom line is that slavery in and of itself is a crime, and it's a sin against humanity. And so regardless to how it all started, that's no reason to justify and say that it's okay to have slaves. And also there's some other things that you might take into consideration. Slavery has been around the world forever and ever. But in slavery, we didn't have chattel slavery until we got to the New World. In many cases, slaves, people would war against each other, and then they would capture the women and the men who were not killed, and they would enslave them. But in many instances, those people were able to work their way back up to a position where they could become a part of the family, they could marry the family, all types of things that were happening. But with chattel slavery in America or in the New World, what that says was that you are a slave, your children will be slaves, and your children's children will be slaves, and that there will be no way that you can ever gain your freedom. And that's the thing that happened in America that made it such a vile crime against humanity. We were in slavery. My people were in slavery. My ancestors were in slavery for over 250 years without an opportunity to become free. So for those who would like to have some discussion around it was wrong for the initial people to put African folks into slavery, it's just as wrong for anyone later on to go on and buy those people and enslave them and enslave their families. So it's something to think about, and it's a good excuse that people want to offer, but it still changes absolutely nothing as it relates to slavery in the United States of America and what it was and how it just completely denied people their own humanity at any point in time during that slave period, where they were raped, where they were molested, starting at age 11, 12, 13, that they took the women and passed them around to the slave owners and the slave visitors. I mean, it was such a crazy thing. So whoever it was that sent that comment in, could you please give me a little bit more information on it and what point you were trying to make in terms of sharing that data? Because it would be interesting to even have a dialogue with you. I would love to have that kind of dialogue. And there are a number of other people, that's the first excuse that they come up with. Well, Black people kidnap Black people. It's wrong. It's wrong no matter how you do it. It's wrong, and it's a crime against humanity. So that's a piece on that one. Any other thoughts on that?
You hit the nail. So, but other thing, yeah, you said it. Why continue it now? Like,
yeah, what makes it okay?
Yes,
yeah, and you're trying to justify their own position. So Now, the other thing that the people asked for were books. So I have a few books that I'll share with you that I think are really interesting and provide some a real perspective or in-depth perspective on this whole notion of enslavement. One of the first books in discrimination, one of the first books that I'll share with you is something called The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. And The Color of Law, the reason why I like that, because he goes back to like 1919, 1920, and moves from there up to current day. And what he shows in his book is how the government created conditions where Black people were continually placed into, I can say, not necessarily bondage, but in a disadvantage to that of the white counterparts at that time. How if they had a school, they would build a school by a particular dump or a different kind of mining situation or operation, that throughout our government, they continue to deny us, Black people, opportunities for us to be able to be one-on-one with our white counterparts and the white students. And that was done by the government over and over and over again in terms of who they gave money to, where they built the schools, where they had housing, in some places where people had amusement parks and they gave them grants. But instead of the people using the money to expand their parks to include African Americans, what they did, they closed the pools. They filled their pools in with dirt and made it a playground. So White Color by Law is an excellent book for you to read. And it doesn't go back to slavery, but you can see again how discrimination was alive and well in America. And it was intentional. It wasn't by accident.
So
Yes.
the question that came about, I don't know, slavery, but like when did colorism come into play?
Okay. Colorism, initially when they were coming to the New World, the initial way that the people who happened to be white, wealthy landowners, how they initially began to make money off of the New World. And anyone does that. When you go to a new world, you want to say, how can I generate some income from that new world that will allow other people to want to come over and live here and raise a family here? Well, initially it was indentured servitude. And indentured servitude said this. It said that poor whites from Europe, Native Americans who were indigenous to America, they were indigenous, they lived here for 1,000 years or so before the people even came to the New World. And then the slaves who were dropped off in 1920, how the data says. So those three populations were indentured servants. And by indentured servitude, what it says is that you would work for usually the person that paid your way over to the United States of America, for the white people from white lower class. And I don't want to use the term lower class. That's the term that they would use. They used who came over from Europe. So they were indentured servants. The Native Americans that they could coerce to come to work for them, or if they weren't coerced, some of them were probably kidnapped. They were placed in bondage under the whole notion of indentured servitude. And then the slaves were initially under indentured servitude, which says that we're not going to keep you in this position forever and ever and ever, but we will allow you to work for 12 years, 3 years, 5 years. At the end of that time period, we will give you some grain. We'll allow you to identify some land, and then you can go off and you can go ahead and be free. Well, when the white landowners, wealthy landowners came over again and kind of looked around and said, well, this is working pretty good. This is working really, really nice, and we're making a lot of money. But then they said, but I think we can make more money. And how are we going to make this additional money is by this. We're going to borrow the Native Americans' land. In other words, they stole the land from Native Americans because they wanted to be able to plant more crops. And that would be either sugar or tobacco or cotton, because the more of those things that they could plant, the more they could then ship and sell throughout the world. So they stole the Native Americans' land and sent them north. The Trail of Tears is probably a good example. And then they told the poor white Europeans, they said, what we're going to do for you is that we are going to allow you to just do anything you want to. You are totally free, and you can work anywhere that you want to work. Well, the only people that they could work for were those wealthy white landowners. So they were locked into working for them. And then they told us, the kidnapped Africans, that we're going to make you slaves because you don't know the land. You don't know where to run to, know where to hide. You can't hide with the white Europeans that were already here because you are readily distinguishable. We can see you as being black and they're being white, so there would be no place for you to hide. And you are good workers. And not only are you good workers, but you are intelligent workers. These are people who were very, very skilled on rice, on sugar, on tobacco, and whatever things they needed. So it wasn't that they just grabbed a group of people from Africa. These are people from Africa who had some skills as they continued to maintain this whole slave mentality. And so they said, we're going to keep you and allow you to be slaves forever and ever and ever, and your children to be slaves and your children's children. Now, the way they did that was then they passed laws, and the laws came in and said they did something that they called race. And the reason why they did race is that they wanted to show some distinction between those who are haves and those who are the have-nots. And so race came in because when you look at race, there's no reason for there to be race. We are 99.98% the same in terms of folks, black people, white people, Asian, Hispanic. But the reason why they wanted to do that, they wanted to show that white was power, white was authority, white was intelligent, white was dominant. And that's where the whole piece around the race came in. And then they had slave laws, and they had black laws that if any of the white people who were here who wanted to help the enslaved Africans, that they said, we will do the same thing to you that we do to the enslaved Africans. We will cut your fingers off, we'll cut your toes off, we'll give you lashes, we'll do all those sorts of things. We'll rape your mothers and daughters and nieces and nephews, because they did that one too. And so that's where the whole piece came in. So that meant that white was the dominant group. And the people who made the whole notion of what race is came from the dominant population. And they continued to reinforce that over and over again, which made it easy for them. And the white Europeans from the lower class that came to America, they made them the overseers. And what happened even with that, after a while, the overseers started to look at what the slaves were living in, where the slaves lived, and what the foods they were eating. And so they said, well, we really aren't doing much better than the slaves. So they went to the slave master's house, mansion, whatever you want to call it, and said, slave master, look, I live almost in the same condition that the slaves are living in, and I'm eating the same foods that the slaves are eating. So shouldn't we kind of be in a better position? And what the slave master told them was this. They said, as long as you are one step above the black slaves, but they used another word, they used the N word, as long as you're one step above them, do not complain to me because you're in a better position. And that, in my opinion, and the information that I've looked at, that has been one of the challenges that white people have had, some white people have had in America. Anytime they saw a black person who was either at parity with them or one step above them, they did everything to wipe them out. They took their homes, they took their towns. Black Wall Street was the same way. Black Wall Street, the people in Black Wall Street weren't doing anything to the white folks. They didn't even live near the white folks. But they had to come up with an excuse to wipe them out. Why? because they had created a town, they created an environment, they had movie theaters, they had all kinds of businesses, and they were thriving. And the white folks said, no, 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 not around here. You cannot be in a better position than we're in. So what did they do? They wiped them out. They literally bombed them. They bombed them. And I think it's only been recent that the people have begun to receive reparations for what took place during that particular time frame. So those are some of the things that I think are important. And we need to understand that. We need to understand why those things happen. White people need to also understand why those things happen and why they just continue to happen over and over and over and over again throughout the United States. And I would say even possibly today, some of those same things are happening because there are some people who still have that mentality that because the color of my skin is lighter than your skin, therefore I should have more privilege than you. I should have access to resources that you can't have access to, or if you have access to the resources, you would not get as many as we would have. And that's a reality. That's where some people are today. They believe that. And I hate to say it, but it's true.
No, it's sad. Like, I was trying to bring it in to today's context, like, or modern day, what I could relate to is seeing the black neighborhoods, Brownsville, the gentrification. They want to include people, mixed incomes, but it's like every time we thrive or above them, like they get rid of us. Like they find a reason, a purpose, no matter what. The Haitians come to Springfield,
Right.
they grow the economy. It's like, what? How can that be?
Well, and probably the same identical thing. If you look at the Haitians, and I was in Springfield a lot. I've been down there, and they were doing great jobs. There were people needed them. They were turning out really, really good results every place that they were working. And the Springfield was thriving as a result of it. But what happened? Someone had to come in and say, we can't have you thriving down here. You're black people. You shouldn't be in that position. You're immigrants. Let's get rid of you. And that's what happened, unfortunately. So it continues to happen today.
Yeah.
The other thing, we'll go back to the books.
Yeah.
Okay, so we got Color by Law. The other book is White Rage. And what this one is, Carol Anderson, an African-American female, her work in White Rage, what she did was to really identify those kind of atrocities that took place. But she was very detail-oriented. She gave the names and the times and the places that these things happened. And so that would be a really good book for you to read. Another good one that I think is really powerful, and Roland Martin, and if you haven't read it, I think Roland Martin did an outstanding job in his book on white fear. And he goes in to talk about what are those things that are happening within our society that causes some white people to have this fear of us. I think, and it ties right back to what I mentioned a little bit earlier. But it's an outstanding read. It's a short book, but it gives you a tremendous. I think everyone needs to read Black, White, Asian, Hispanic, because he covers some very, very good points in his book. And then you have Stamped and Stamped from the Beginning, and that's by Dr. Kendi, and Stamped from the Beginning. And then Stamped is Dr. Reynolds and Dr. Kendi. They did that one, and they put that one together. It was focused more on young people in high school. But in reading it, it's a book that everyone can read. They wrote it in such a way that young people in high school could read it and really begin to understand it. And I think it would be a good read. One book that I will really give a tremendous amount of credit to, and this was done by a white female named Robin DiAngelo. And Robin DiAngelo wrote a book called White Fragility. I think that white people need to read that and Black people need to read that. But what she's talking about in her book is, why do we find that white people are fragile when it comes to talking about topics of race? And she was a training consultant. She worked with 2 other African-American training consultants. And she worked with them and she learned a lot and was able to make a great contribution. But what she said she wanted to do more. And so she said, I don't know as much about Black people as I need to know. She said, but what I do know, I know about white people. And so what she did at that time, then she just started writing about her own people and her own experiences, especially being in those classes, and how fragile some white people would be whenever they wanted to talk about the whole issue of race and they wanted to kind of stay away from it. Another book that I think would be great to read, and that is, this is a good one, very good one. This is White Trash. And what it is 400 years of Europeans. And the lady who wrote this book was Nancy Eisenberg. And Nancy Eisenberg said, we are always looking at Black history. Let's look at white history. And she did a fantastic job. I think one of the reasons why people were not buying it is because it said white trash. And she wasn't putting anyone down. She was, and this is a white female who wrote the book. She wasn't putting anyone down. She said what she wanted to do was to look at what was going on in Europe and how were people who were at the lower echelon in that particular area, how were they addressed? And she said they called them trash people. They called them garbage people. She had some names, but she said, I hate to even say these names, but these are the things, the names that were being given to people who were not able to pull themselves up by the bootstraps in Europe, and some of the people who left Europe to come to the New World. Why would you leave Europe if you were in any kind of position that was comfortable or healthy for you and get on a ship and ride 3 floats for 3 months over to an unknown land? But those people were saying, hey, I don't have anything here that's helping me. I don't see any future here. So at least if I go to the New World and I could be an indentured servant, but I'll only be an indentured servant for either 3 years, 6 years, 12 years, depending upon the contract that they signed with the rich, white, male landowners at that time. So they felt they'd have better opportunities in dealing with that one. And then the last one that I'll share is one called Caste. And this is Isabel Wilkerson. And this was a Black female. It took her about, she said, 14 years to write her book. She said, and what she wanted to do was really take a close look at this whole notion of racism in America. And she went all over the world. And what she came up with, she said, what we really have in America is a caste system similar to that of what's happening in India. And that has been in India's, since its, I guess, inception. But she came up with some very, very good information and some very great correlations between the caste system in India and throughout the world and what was happening here in the United States of America. So those are a few books, and they are all good. Any one of those books will give you a tremendous amount of information, a tremendous amount of insight. And if you have any questions about any of them, please don't hesitate to give us another shout or type something in and send it to us. So, all right. So where do we go from here?
Guess what's so great about America?
What's so great? I think the great thing about America was that people could come to America because it's a capitalistic system, and you could take your own ideas and you can take your own dreams, and if you can connect with the right people, you can become famous, you can become wealthy, and it has happened over and over and over again. And even with the degree of discrimination and racism that existed in America and that still exists in America, people were still able to live their dream. And I believe in that. I just believe that if we can remove some of the isms from all of this, including the isms against women, it would be even greater place. My only thing with capitalism, it just seems that I think that it should be taxed appropriately so that the more money you make, you're still paying taxes that you can reward people who made that money for you. Like we have some big companies today. And I'll just pick on Walmart. And, Walmart is a good place, and I go there myself. I shop at their locations. But they make, $300 billion or something along that line. I think that's their wealth. And making that much money, what's making them wealthy? And that's the people that are there that come to this store, and also the people that are working there. So why can't they at least give those employees there a decent wage? Why can't they give them? They could give them $25 an hour and it wouldn't affect them at all, and they would still make their money. So it's that kind of thing there. So
Okay. So when you said that, I was thinking about the laws that are in place because somebody mentioned, so who wrote the Constitution? So it's like, is the law? So now it's the white people, but like landlord, I was talking about, like you said, landlord, like landowner, but like, oh, landlord. So what if it's the laws and protocols that's still keeping us in place?
from what I see right now, just take a look. I'm looking at the cost of a one-bedroom apartment. I can remember when the cost of a one-bedroom apartment was $400 or $500. And then all of a sudden, what's happening now, you're going to pay $1,000 to $1,200 for a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment, same apartment. Why is that happening? That's because capitalism said to some of these wealthy people who are investing in property, saying, "Ooh, let's go to these communities. Let's buy all the houses in these depressed communities, not some of them, buy all of them, and we'll fix them up. But at the same time, we're going to triple the cost for rental." And by them buying 1,000 houses, that means that people who need those homes can't go to the original owner, but they're going to some kind of a company, and the company is the one who's going to dictate the price for those units. And so then the people, even those, if they made a $25 an hour from Walmart, they're still going to have to pay these exorbitant prices for rental. And so they're almost at the same place that they were when they were making $8, $10 an hour.
Okay.
What else you got?
I think we could just talk about when somebody mentioned, you mentioned already about who bought the black people, like who sold the black people to blacks.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, we mentioned that already.
Yeah, we talked about that.
Ask people in Alabama if European is white, they would tell you they are foreigners. That's a random question.
I don't kind of get what they're saying that. You know, I just think right now, though, I think we have an opportunity again in the United States of America to kind of straighten some of these things out and get more equity across the board. We need to be able to stand up and challenge those large companies that come in and buy all those properties. And I think that it's our government who writes the laws, or the cities who allow these people to come in and do those things. So if the cities would stand up and say, that's not going to happen in our city. You're not going to come in and buy up all the property and then charge these exorbitant prices for rent, then we could stop that and we could make sure that those kinds of things don't happen. But we have to have city government that feels strong enough and, as I can say, strong enough and also wants to be able to keep a healthy community to stand up and challenge those things. Yeah. We want everyone in our communities to be able to afford a decent home for their families and for their children. I think that should be the goal of any city. If you want a healthy city, then that is the thing that I think is the goal. There's a mission statement that says we protect children by strengthening families. And if you look at we protect children by strengthening families, what if that was the mission statement for the city of Columbus, or that was the mission statement for the state of Ohio? So if we protect children by strengthening families, what are we going to look at? We're going to look at families and moms and dads who can get a job, who can get gainful employment, who can have good medical care for their families. Because if the family is strong, if the family is strengthened, then that child who grows up in that family is going to be healthy. So we need something like that. We need a mantra like that. We need a policy like that. We need mindsets like that. Say, let's strengthen our families. And then the companies need to buy into it. Companies will still make money. They're always going to make money. But if they also make sure that the people who are working for them are getting a decent wage so that they can take care of their families, that company's business is going to continue to grow and grow and grow. And I don't know exactly how to do that other than maybe what we're doing right here today. Maybe someone in the right position, the governor, the mayors, or what have you, would say, I think I like that mantra. Let's start to work with that. Let's look at how do we protect children in our communities by strengthening families. Also, in doing that, I bet the crime rate would drop significantly. Medical care would drop significantly. Why? Because the family is healthy and that child, that baby would get the right kind of support that they need to grow up to be a healthy child. But it requires someone to have some foresight and some fight around wanting to do that. So,
I think Chicago's doing that. The mayor of Chicago's doing that,
oh, really?
providing money back to Black communities. Yeah,
And it's not just the Black community. And I think that's another piece too. I think we have to say all communities.
Okay.
And definitely we need it as a Black community because we have caught more hell than anybody else out there. But we have to speak to it about all communities, all families are being strengthened. Because if we say that and we become inclusive, then everything will come out better. Everything will work. But if we bring one group up and then one group is still down and they're going to get mad at us, they're going to reach up, they want to pull us back down, and we're going to get mad at them, we're going to do something with them, and then another group comes in from someplace else. I mean, it just continues the mess. So just say, in this city, in this state, this is what we do. And I don't care who you are, we're going to abide by these laws and these policies. Now, I'm probably a cockeyed optimist to even say that, but you got to say it. You have to start to at least say it and think it and get this kind of information out there so people can begin to say, this is what we want. And also what could happen then, when people go to the polls, you vote for people who are going to do those kinds of things or to support that kind of an initiative. That's where we do it. The churches could be very, very supportive in doing those kind of things.
Okay. So the thing you didn't mention your book because first book you mentioned about the virus. I think you should reiterate that about the virus, how virus is common to people. Like it's not the program.
Okay.
Your first book that you wrote.
Oh, A Better World?
Yes.
Oh, yeah. The book we did, myself and two other training consultants, we came together, Dan Houston and Les Helms. We came together, and what we were doing initially, all of us taught diversity training. Les Helms was a white male who was down, I think, at Columbus State or something like that. Dan was a consultant, the same as I am, and in different organizations and companies, government and what have you. And so we said, hey, guys, since we're doing the same things, what are some of the things that you see that are taking place in your class? What kind of questions are people looking for? What are the decision makers looking for? And so we got together and said we were going to create a brochure. Well, the brochure was so big, we said, well, let's make a big old pamphlet, that we can send out to people. And then that was large. So we ended up saying, let's do a book. But at that time, what we were looking for was, how do we share what's going on in our society relative to this whole notion of race and put all the component pieces out there so people can look at them and understand them. And so what we did, we used an example I had used for a long period of time, and that is a computer having a conversation with people. And the computer said to people that, we have been with you folks for a long time. We're in your homes. You take us with you when you go on vacation. You give computers to the kids when you want to kind of have a built-in babysitter. You use them in your office environment. You use them everywhere. So we kind of know you, and we have been looking at you, and we have a few questions that as computers we would like to ask you. And that is, why or how can you look at another person and based upon their exterior, their physical makeup, their diverse makeup, reach a conclusion about them, whether they are good or bad or smart or ignorant or what have you? It just doesn't make sense to us computers because as a computer, I can't look at another computer and know anything about it based upon the hardware. In order for us to understand another computer, we have to know what kind of software they're using. We have to know what kind of operating system they work from. And then when we do that, in order for us to do that, we have to at least be able to reach out to each other. So we have a thing called a handshake. So I try to talk to you, and I'll keep talking to you until we get a handshake. And we get a handshake, then the computers start to talk to each other. They said, but you people, you just reach conclusions along those things, and it doesn't make any kind of sense. And so the book goes on, and it also says, the computer says something else you do. They say from time to time, a computer will get a virus. Now, when a computer gets a virus, we can go get a virus scan. They can clean us up, and we can get back to work. Because if we try to operate with the computer virus, we will just mess up everything. Our information won't be correct. The verbiage will be off. So many crazy things will happen. They say, well, as people, for people, do you folks have a virus scan or a people scan? And so what it talks about then for us, what we were looking at, the virus scan for us would be someone coming to take a training in diversity or inclusion or those types of things. And so what we were trying to do was to say to people that there are some healthy ways that we can begin to meet and talk and connect with each other so that we can begin to understand each other and then move on without all of the isms that have been holding us back and that have been creating all these problems for 350 years, 375 years. So the book, it was a good book. I personally right now think it was really light, and we really didn't push on anybody, but it was a good foundation book, which is what we wanted it to be, an airplane book, a book that someone would get ready to get on a plane, open the book. By the time they land, they had gone through the pages. This is interesting. Let's call these guys and see what they have to offer our organization, because they say when we get rid of all these viruses, which is all these discriminatory views and perspectives, that we as a company will function much more successfully, and we will even achieve more profit than what we're already making. So that's what that book was about, and that's what we were trying to accomplish with it. I was able to sell a few hundred, didn't push it. I think I'm going back now. What I'm doing is putting together what I'm calling a Better World 2. And a Better World 2 is going to go a much, much, much deeper. And it'll be something that I think we can use today, in our environment.
Okay. Hope you guys are commenting that you want the book so I can let them know. So get some more copies out there.
Oh, yeah.
Because the reason I brought that up is people to reach out to you. But also, somebody mentioned what are some solutions for the Black people? Or so he said, say all, but like, what are some solutions
for us?
I thought it was your book about the virus, but what are some other things that can help the community?
I think right now, especially where the political climate is, I think one of the things that we should not do is to get caught up in that, looking at the news all day long, and one after another, hour after hour, looking at all those, because many of those things that are taking place right now are out of our direct control. And we can send some money in to a senator, congressperson, they can do some things, or maybe we can write some things, but that's at another level. What I think we should be doing as Black folk, and I think they should be doing as white folk too, we need to be strengthening ourselves, our skill set, our knowledge, our information, how to build better relationships with each other, how to be able to come together if we want to get something done. How do we come together as a group to be able to pass legislation that we need to be that will help us start to be able to move forward? That is the thing that I think needs to happen now. I think we need to stand up for ourselves. We need to stand up for injustices as we always have. But in the meantime, we need to move forward. And here's why I say that. I believe today that as African Americans, I'm going to say this, there aren't any excuses for us not to be in the positions that we want to be in. I mean, we have the skill, we have the knowledge, we have the talent, we have access to schools, we have access to all kinds of resources, and we need to take advantage of that. I don't know how to say this, if as an African American, ages, say 18 to 40, if we are not in a decent job, making a decent income, I think the first person I have to look at is me. I can no longer do the blame game. Now, that doesn't mean that you get all the promotions that you were supposed to have. And that is something that if that happened to you, we need to fight that. We need to challenge that. But what I'm saying is, have we done all that we can do for ourselves at this particular point in time in this society to be able to be in a position where you have a decent income that's coming in? Have you taken advantage of the training that's out there? One of the things right now, even down in central at Columbus State, the kids can go Columbus State free, man, and get into Ohio State University. And that's not new. There have been programs that have just been going on for years and years. And there are things that we could be doing ourselves. Now, don't beat me up for that, but push back on me, push back. But I just believe that we haven't taken advantage of all those things that are out there that we could have to put ourselves in better, secure positions so that as these doors pop open or as we tear these doors open, we can propel ourselves into some of the higher areas. I do believe that diversity and implicit bias training was an absolute necessity. I do believe also that it has had some significant successes. And I think that we needed to take advantage of those successes when they were there and then continue to grab hold of those things and move ourselves together and then come together. I have at home, I have great-grandchildren, and about 3 of them were at the house. And I have this picture on the floor. And what it shows a little black boy on a porch, on a storefront porch. And there's a basket, and the basket is full of crabs, and they're hanging on the inside of the basket. And then standing over him is a white male with a beard, and he was like the general store owner. And Wade, the young guy who did it for me, he put the caption down that I asked him to do. And the little boy is saying to the white store owner, he said, "Mister, why don't those crabs get out the basket? Why don't they just get out and run away?" And the store owner looks down and he says, "It's just like you." I'm going to use black folks, but he didn't say black folks. It was the N word. "It's just like you black folks. As soon as one gets close to the top, the other one reaches up and pulls them back down." And so in looking at that and then thinking about that, we need to be able to come together and help each other out. If I'm in a company, I need to make sure that I find opportunities for other people that I know who have the skill set to be able to come into that company. If I know someone is a very talented person, but they're missing certain kinds of skills, then what I need to do is help that individual get those skills. If I'm the person who's running a church or a synagogue or temple, then I need to have ongoing programs to look around the city and say, where are those job openings and how can we train our people to fill those slots? And we need to be doing that. And we should have been doing that, not just now. We should have been doing that, and I'm not knocking those who have. So please, 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 but it's not enough. So we need to be having those types of, that to me is how we get ahead. That doesn't mean that there isn't racism, that there isn't sexism. That stuff is there. And I think no matter where you go or no matter what happens in life, that those kinds of things will always be there. You always have someone who's at the top wants to hold other people down. That comes in any race, because if they weren't doing that to us as black people, they would be doing it to white people, or they'd be doing it to Hispanics, so they'd be, in every country in the world, we see the same identical thing happen. And the only thing that allows people to move forward is for those people to be able to say, I'm going to take advantage of every opportunity that I have to be able to position myself to get the kind of job that I want. And, and I look at myself, I was a high school dropout with a GED, who got a GED, and dyslexic. So if I could pull it off, I'm sure that you could pull it off. I was not the most likely one to succeed academically. I wasn't the one. I played basketball, yeah, but not academically. And that was before they knew what dyslexia was. I was just the good basketball player who could not read worth a damn. But you have to do something to move past that. You can't allow those kind of things to slow you down from being able to achieve the goals that you want to achieve. And I didn't have any rich family members who reached out and gave me anything. Stuff happens, and you have to make it happen for yourself. And I think that's what we need to do as Black folk, to say, we're going to be the best that we can possibly be, and I'm going to help as many people as I can possibly help to help them to be the best that they can be.
Okay. So you asked for pushback. I'm just going to get, because I was in this meeting, but the question is education. So picking between trade and regular education.
Ooh, trade. As a Black man in America, growing up in Pittsburgh, and then when I came here to Columbus, Ohio, not Mountain Home, Idaho, that's a different story, but here, everywhere I looked at that time, we saw Black tradesmen who were doing very, very, very well. Carpenters, electricians, cement, bricklayers, and they were there, and those guys were doing it. And those companies were owned by Black men. I think there may have been one or two owned by some women. But those were the things that allowed us, even Smoot, when you look at him, he was started in the trades, man. And that's what it really boiled down to. But I think the trades by far, and when you look at people in trades, they make great money. They have good benefits that they can either build into their own company, or they would get them if they're with another company. And there's a tremendous need. Look right now, there's a need in Columbus and in Ohio and the nation. We need more homes. We need more houses. And not only do we need more, but the ones that have been around for a while, people are getting folks to repair them, to fix them up so that people can move in. People who are in their own homes who have been there for, like I've been in my house for 40 years. I always need to have the plumbing tightened up. I need to do some electric. And I've been doing that in my house since I bought it, 39 years ago. But something always pops and breaks, or you just want something different. And if you have a wife or lady in the house, they're going to make you tear a wall down, you know what I'm saying? Because I like for it to look this way and what have you. So I think trades.
Okay. So since we are podcast, I want to push your gemism.
Okay.
With the bucket and the crabs in the bucket. I heard from a meeting before, it's like, why do we keep saying that? Because why are crabs in that condition? They're supposed to be in the ocean and stuff like that.
That's a good point.
What put us in that condition?
What put us in those positions is that as minorities who work your butt off, you were able to get a decent job. And in getting that decent job, you knew that they weren't going to hire a whole bunch of other people that looked like you in that job. And so when you saw somebody else kind of getting close to that job, the thing was like, man, if they come in here, what's going to happen to me? I could lose my job or blah, blah. And so I think people developed that kind of a fear because they knew there were only so many slots that were open. And so consequently, the thought of I'm here and I don't want to lose this, and so I want to hold on to it. And I don't want anyone else who looks like me to come in because they just might take my job.
Yeah, I got to push back against you a lot more because
do that.
You make a lot of clarity in my mind. Oh shoot, I see in a different way you give your elaboration.
Okay.
Yeah. So that's all I have for you for today.
That's all.
Yes. There's anything if you're free to say anything, but how do people get in contact with you?
Contact with me. My email is jwhite, 2 at columbus.rr.com. jwhite2 at columbus.rr.com. There is something else I want to say. And I hear a number of minority folk saying that they are afraid of AI. And I don't want to mess with it. It'll do this to you, and it'll steal your information. It'll steal your knowledge and what have you. Only thing that I can say is AI is a powerful tool. And like with any tool, if you use the tool the right way, it will benefit you. I think AI has introduced a new paradigm into our society. And I say that by saying, when you think about a paradigm, When the paradigm shifts, the game starts over. In the past, as a child, when I wanted to, and a young adult, when I wanted to get some information, one of the things that everybody wanted was the Encyclopedia Britannica, 12, 13 books. And anytime you wanted some information, you would go alphabetically, you pull that book down, and you go to that page, and you may find a page or two of what you were looking for, and it probably had some references. Well, that was a powerful tool back in those days, and we used it. Well, now today, instead of you having to go to the bookcase and pull down a book, all you do is go on to AI, and if you can ask the right question and ask the question the right way, then AI is going to give you a response. Also, if the response that AI provides you with is not adequate enough, not deep enough, if it's wrong, if it's skewed, all you have to do is say, AI, I think that I need more information, I need more depth, I don't think you did this the right way. Send it back, and it will send you some more information. I asked a number of, probably a year or so ago, AI, what's the best way to deal with you? AI told me, Jim, if you want to use my resources, I need you to be as clear as you possibly can in regards to the question that you want to ask me. If you're clear and you give all the parameters, then I can go in and I can pull the information out that you want and that you need and provide it for you. And then someone else says that just recently, they said, and don't just go to one AI. There's multiple AIs out. How many different kind of AIs out there? There's a bunch of them.
Yeah.
So I can ask one AI this question, another AI that question. One other gentleman told me, he said, I tell AI, look, AI, I don't want you to give me something soft. I don't want you to give me anything easy. I want you to understand who I am and what I am about and the kind of information that I need. So please, when you're getting the information, don't give me any breaks. Just lay that data out there and give it. And the AI just, bam, it gives it to you. I don't know how long it's going to be available to us that way. My take is when you have something that good, someone right now is trying to figure out how they can charge you more money to access it.
Yes.
So my thing is you should access it right now. I have literally thousands of pages of information that I ask AI about that's valuable as can be. So if you haven't, please, please, please do not allow yourself to allow fear of something new to block you from being able to get a tool that's free. And if you drop $25 in, it even opens it up more and it gives you visuals. Oh yeah, the other day a guy came, I was driving down to Central State, and he said, hey man, I want you to listen to something. And he played this song. And it was a powerful song for young people, whatever you. And I said, whoa, man, where'd you cut that? I would like to order that. He said, I made that on AI. I said, what? He said, AI, I told it what I wanted. I told it I wanted to be upbeat. I told it blah, 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 blah. He said, and all of a sudden AI create, and you should hear the song. It is outstanding. I'm not joking. It's where I had the beat in it. It's like, man, I want to show this and share this with every young person that I can come in contact with, especially all my family, my grandkids and what have you. But that's AI. And you, Mr. AI, I'm sure that you can add even more to that in terms of how effective AI is or can be for people.
Pretty much just this past Saturday, I was speaking with a digital currency personnel, credit union person, and he made a music with AI, and ourselves will make affirmation music. So stay tuned for the affirmation. Like I was like, oh, make affirmation of music, so I can listen to myself and also share it.
Yourself and share. Yeah, because it's there. Yep. It's there. So please, folks, don't pass this one up. Don't pass this one up. Do not allow fear. Fear is false events appearing real. There's nothing that you need to worry. And some people say, oh, it'll steal your information. Well, it can't steal any information from me unless I give it information.
So what they're saying is like they're building, you putting input into it to be like you, but you're infinite. You create so much, it's like it can't really duplicate you. That's what they're fearful of. So like, oh, they take all this information. So it's like they create an image of your grandmother. She's not here. So it's like it's acting like people's like
people are.
you should read the Bible. That's pretty much like. But that's my only way of seeing it. Like you give information, but it's how you, I don't know, find peace. Like you need time to go outside, think of nature. It's a tool. I'm using it for affirmation.
That's it. It's a tool, and it's a powerful tool because and rather than you having to go and do a lot of exploration out there in the city about data, about information, about what have you, it will really teach it to you. It will really teach it.
Yep.
Really teach it.
Help you writing, everything. Like it's your own personal teacher.
Right. It is. That's exact. Or it's your own personal business consultant. If you have a company and you have a group of people that do work for you, all of those people aren't perfect. They all aren't going to do the right thing. They're going to give you some stuff and you say, oh, this is okay, but I need you to do this, 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 and this. You can do the same thing with AI. It's there for you.
Yep. Yeah, leave us out with a Jamism. Give us a quote.
A quote?
Yes, Jamism.
Oh, what? You think that one?
Gems with Jill. Wait, Gems with Jay.
Okay, that's a good one. Do I have a quote? I think my quote would be, do not allow fear to get in the way of you achieving your success. If there's something that you want bad enough, that you're willing to do what's necessary to achieve it. Because if other people have achieved it, why would you not be able to do the same identical thing? But you have to first have that vision. And if I have that, if I can see it with that song, if I can see it and I believe it, I can really start to make it happen. So I just think live your dream, and please continue to dream, because I think so many people have just stopped.
Yes.
And they don't want to dream. They're afraid, oh, it won't come out. Well, so what if the first one doesn't come out? Then you do it again. Do not allow fear to paralyze you. All fear is the fact that I have been trying to find something, to seek some things out, and that wasn't the best. So that wasn't the best route for me to take. So what reason why it didn't give me what I was looking for? But maybe I didn't ask the right way. So what do? I ask the same question, but ask it another way and explore. But fear just says, I'm working really, really, really hard and I'm on the right track, but I just cannot stop now. So that's kind of the best I can give in terms of not necessarily a quote, but it's just one of my beliefs that I have.
Yeah. So yeah, thank you. And also people that comment, that say thank you for speaking out. Yeah, every time I come here, I get juiced up, get powered up to keep moving.
And I love the comments and I love the pushback. Please, 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 if there's something that I said that you feel is not true or doesn't have value, please push back on me and let me know. I want to know where I might mess up, or I want to know where I go off track. Because all that's going to make me do, I'm going to go back and study more, dig more, look more, ask more people, talk more to AI. But believe me, I'm not going to allow that to stop me. And that's the only way that you grow. That's why even in schools, they give you a report card. And a report card tells you how you have been doing in certain subjects. And those subjects that you get the A and A+ in, great. But what about the ones that you got the C and the D and you may have failed? All that says is just go back and try it again. So that's my thought, my belief. That's what I share with my great-grandchildren and grandchildren.
All right. Please pick up a book. That's the way you say.
Oh, yeah. Hey, on those books and all those other books, please get them. And if you haven't started using AI, go online tonight, type in ChatGPT and just ask AI, I don't know how to use you. I'm somewhat afraid of using it, but what is the best way for me to use AI based upon the work I'm doing, general information, whatever, and just see what it says to you. And I'm sure that the prompts that you get will make you want to go back and ask some more questions.
Yep. So create an account so it could, collect the data. It's not going to harm you. Just so it could retain information to help you. That's what it's for.
It's all there.
All right. Thanks for coming on.
Thank you, folks.